I just want, when we do decide to be in relationships with people, I want us to take them seriously, to really take account for all that it takes to be there for someone, having true capacity to be supportive to their dreams, to things that they're trying to work on, things they're trying to work out. I want us to be more serious about being with a person with the purpose to help them be the better versions of them so that they can be better to us and for us. If we're both always trying to be like, how can I be there for you? How can I support you? How can I encourage you? How can we have a better life together? I think, to your point, more relationships will work out because we're communicating about what we need to be better people. If you're a wonderful individual, you will probably be a wonderful individual in partnership.
Yep.
But if you are a bad person, you're probably going to be a crappy partner. It's just the way that it goes. You're going to be a crappy dad, or you're going to be a crappy whatever. There are going to be things that there is a through line through these things. So I really, really hope that we take seriously that, do you need to be fully healed? No, but you do need to be at a point where you can accept accountability for when you're making mistakes, that you are at least committed to growing past that, and committed to doing as much as you can to be the best version of yourself for all of the people that get to experience you. That's what real, true, healthy relationships are all about. If we're not in each other's lives to make things better, why are we here?
Hey guys, welcome back to Real Love Scenario. Whoa, whoa.
How do we always on the same page about extending the song?
We always there.
I tell y'all, good synergy. This my boy.
That's what I'm saying. Shout out to all our real lovers out there. Welcome back. Please make sure to like, subscribe, comment, do all the things that are free to you but mean a lot to us. And if you're new here, welcome. Join the Real Lover gang. We are here talking about real relationships, real love in a positive and healthy way. So welcome to the show.
Yes. Before we jump into it, can I give a couple shout outs?
Yes, please give a couple
because
shout outs.
I was at an event recently, and I love running into real lovers. Like, it just makes me so happy. We've been doing this now for 3 years.
Yes. Has it been? Oh,
it's
wow.
been 3 years. Our first show was in 2022. Crazy. Almost 4. And I'm like, every single time I meet someone, it's like the first time. It's like I know that people listen, clearly thousands of people listen to our show, but every time I'm like, you do? Oh my God, so good to me. I'm like, I turn into a pudding pop. So I want to shout out James and Ashley, who I met recently at Just Like Friends in Baltimore. It's so good to meet you guys. I really appreciate you saying something to me and like being like, I love the show. I check out the show. So I appreciate that.
No, I love it too.
If you run into Dre and I, like, please, we like to talk to you. Please come up.
It's always dope for me when dudes come up to me and be like, yo, I love your stuff. And I'm like, awesome, man. I like that too.
Yeah. And the meeting, I texted Dre when it happened last night. And last night, this is going to come out, I'm sure, later. But I was like, I was in the food line. And the guy was just like, he turned around to speak, and then he like double took, like, hey, I know who you are. And I'm like, you do? How you know me? He like the pod. And I'm like, what? Give me a hug. Yeah, so that was good. Thank you for saying something, and thank you for your support.
When you said you was out in the event, I was like, according to Mona, you always at an event anyway. So,
oh my God, the lies Mona tells. I need to always be in an event. Lord, bring it into my life. I would like to be at more events and just chilling and cooling, having a good time, dancing. But yeah, I'm not at enough events.
No. Okay. So what we talking about today, Rhonda?
Ooh, switching gears. We're gonna be jumping into therapy and healing and what these terms really mean for relationships. And I really would love for us to dive into the idea of something that I'm sure you've heard, that you really need to go into a relationship healed.
Yeah.
Right. Like that concept that you need to have all your stuff fixed and figured out. Do you really have to be fully healed to be in a loving relationship? Or is that something that you can do while being with someone?
I think both.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I believe that entering into a relationship, you must be healed in specific areas. Trust.
Yeah.
Right? Commitment. And from your past relationships, right? You need to be over those situations. But if I'm considering you as a partner, I'm less concerned about the problems that you have and more concerned about your process for solving the problems that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing I've learned from being married and being in a relationship is that if you think you have problems coming into the relationship, that doesn't even touch the things that are going to be revealed once you get into the relationship.
Speak on it.
Right? There are so
Yes.
many things that you have yet to touch or discover or uncover that have been traumatic from your past because you haven't had to touch it, because you haven't been with somebody in a serious long-term relationship.
Yeah.
But best believe
Mm-hmm.
you start getting a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road with somebody, there are going to be some things that you never had to deal with that are traumatic from your past that now start to pop up because you're being stretched, pulled, asked to do things that you've never been asked to do before. So those things and those wounds will open up in the relationship, and you're going to have to figure out how to heal in that relationship in the midst of what's going on. So that's why I said I'm less concerned about the problems that you have and more concerned with the process in which you solve your problems. Because when you look at my wife in our relationship, we both were young, but my wife had an anger issue coming into this relationship. Like she can get mad, get hot, and she's even talk about like how it landed her in legal trouble sometimes, her temper.
Yeah.
That was a problem. But I always admired how she approached her process of solving problems. She first always acknowledged, oh, this is an issue. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm willing to go see help. I'm willing to talk to somebody. Okay, I can work with somebody like that because regardless of what's coming at you, you want the best for yourself. You're okay with acknowledging I got work to do in this area, right? So then it's like, okay, we can work with that. The problem, somebody might look at that on the surface and see some of the things that happen because of the anger and be like, oh no, you don't want to be with somebody like that. That relationship ain't gonna never work. That person gonna be like this, that person gonna be like that. No, show me how you solve your problems and show me how you attack the things that you need to get better at. And I like to look at that process and see that you do that well versus not having any problems at all. Because guess what? We all got problems and we're going to find some new ones once we get in this relationship.
That part, it's just certain things you are not going to figure out until you test it with someone else. Like, I can't get triggered on this particular thing in my friendships. I can't get triggered on this particular thing in my relationship with my mom. It'll never come up because it's unnatural to those dynamics. I don't deal with, inaccurate reporting with my friends. I deal with that with the relationships with my coworkers, right? So that's a thing that gets tested there. So it's the same thing. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think, obviously huge kudos to Bree for just the first step of actually realizing like this is an issue. And I may not have all of the answers on how to figure it out, but I want to find them. I'm going to acknowledge that I have a problem, commit to figuring out the solutions to fix the problem. And then once I get those solutions in knowledge, then I start to apply them in action and behavior. It is a step 1, step 2, step 3 thing for me. I find that a lot of people are sometimes able to identify that they have an issue, but instead of going into next step 2 and saying I want to figure out the resources so I can work on this issue, they take that on as like a part of their personality. Like that's just how I am. I'm just hot-headed. I'm short fused. It's like, well, being short fused permanently is like not a good thing. It's not a characteristic or a thing that you should hold on to. You should learn to have more patience. You should figure out how to stop yourself from once that fuse burns out. What do you then do after that? It's usually not the thing, it's really how you express the thing. Like my patience as I've gotten older has gotten thinner. Now I have to implement things to not show that so much. It doesn't mean my patience still isn't thin because it is, but how is someone reading that from me? Like if someone's in close proximity, can they feel that I feel that feeling? Am I wrong for having such short patience with this person? Those are the questions that you start to ask yourself when you learn how to heal or you figured out your journey in a process. All it is taking inventory of what is your body doing? What is your mind saying? What are you wanting to do versus what you actually choose to do? Most people don't venture into step 2 and step 3.
Yeah, what you said, that's such an interesting balance. And I think we have trouble with that. Like that identity portion of something being unhealthy versus saying, this is who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it happens the other way too. Sometimes you want somebody to be a certain way,
Yeah.
and you have to determine, is that how they should be, or is that just how you want them to be based off of who you are?
Yeah.
And it's important for us in relationships sometimes to understand both sides of the coin that we have. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
have a quarter, there's two different sides.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to understand that a
Yeah.
lot of the things that you will love about a person will
Mm-hmm.
also be a driver for a lot of your issues, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So I can only give the example of my relationship. My wife is bubbly and
Mm-hmm.
outgoing. I'm not like, antisocial, but I'm just more subdued and I'm
Mm-hmm.
more,
More reserved.
more reserved.
Yeah.
And that balance is great for our relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am stable. I'm somebody she can depend on. I don't get emotionally up or down, right? When it comes to making decisions, I can be calm in those moments.
Yeah.
But there's also times to where she might want to surprise me with something or do something, and I don't give the reaction as bubbly and as excited as she may want. So it's like trying to juggle that. Do I want them to change because I feel like that's what you should be doing? Am I stuck in my way to say like this is just who I am?
Mm-hmm.
Or is there benefit to me being the
Yielding a
person that I
bit. Yeah.
am,
Giving
right?
into it. Giving into
And
it a little
me
bit.
changing kind of changes the essence of who I am and
Mm-hmm.
honestly what makes this work. So I will say that before you start going and asking somebody to change, understand, is this a separate coin or is it just the other side of the coin that I actually like?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just, you got to work through that
You do.
sometimes.
You do. And oh man, I think about just like how many times in the time that we've had real love scenario that we've talked about having thoughtful conversations. Just you saying that, it just made me think about like, this is why I gotta get a man, y'all, because I'm ready, okay? I'm very ready. If I feel like my person, like I'm bubbly, let's just go with this with the example you just gave. I'm very bubbly. My partner is not. And so it sometimes causes a little bit of a clash and like, dang, I can't even tell if you really, or I put in all this effort and I can't even tell if you really appreciate it because you're just more like, oh, thank you. It's room to then ask, like from you, if you know that like how you're reacting isn't what they would want and they really would prefer for you to be more like them. It's sometimes asking the question like, well, if I can't get to where you are, what is an alternative? Like what could I do that would keep me closer to who I naturally am, but also satisfy this desire that you want? And let them come up with that. They may not have that answer right then and there, but like let them really come up with that. That question to me does two things. One, it introduces perspective that maybe there is something else that you are comfortable with doing that makes them feel appreciated. It's never going to be a, oh my God, babe, like that's just not, that's too far on the other side of the coin. But maybe it's, it would be nice if you wrote on our little whiteboard on the refrigerator, like, I really appreciate what you did for me the other day. Like, not just saying it to me in the moment, but maybe it's some little gesture, some little small thing that is the extra little thing that feels like a bubbly response. But what it can also do, that type of question, is make the person be like, damn, do I actually really need anything else? Like, is there an actual, I don't know if I need an alternative. Like, now that I've been asked this question and I can't answer it, maybe I want too much. Maybe this really doesn't matter that much. I'm just trying to make them more like me instead of accepting that this is how they show love and appreciation. And just because they don't do it like me doesn't mean that it's not authentic and real and thoughtful.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
think I would do question challenge, like
Mm-hmm.
the two questions that you ask, and then challenge that person to say, all things considered, like I just want you to think about, what does that person look like? What do I look like when I'm truly happy,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm truly surprised, when I'm truly thankful?
Mm-hmm.
Because if all you're asking of me is to give the generic response for a certain emotion, to me, that's also saying that you're not taking the effort to get to know me, right?
Yeah.
It's like somebody's mom. It's like my mom could look and be like, oh, he's really excited.
Yeah.
Like without, you might not even,
Without me being like,
yeah,
yeah, I'm so
like
excited.
without you knowing, but
Yeah.
she know there's an
Yeah.
intimate level of knowing that
Mhm.
this person's temperament is different. This person,
Mhm.
behaves differently, but because I know
Yeah.
them, I know when they're excited. Like I know I can look at my wife and be like, you gotta go to the bathroom, go ahead. Or you got like you know what I mean? Like you hungry or
Yeah.
you need this or you need that because you intimately spend time with somebody
And you
that it
know
shouldn't
them.
just be like you have to show me the generic example of
Yeah.
what a certain emotion is. I should be able after spending time with you if I really
Mhm.
am dedicated to communicating well with you that it's not just about me saying things and you doing things the way I want them. It's me observing you and understanding like, oh, okay,
That's
this is how
normal.
you are.
Yeah.
This is what you need. This is what that means.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a question, and then a challenge.
Yeah.
And I feel like if we think in that way, we'll always end up in the right spot when it comes to relationships.
Agreed. Agreed. Listen, let's move into therapy because that's the big old T word. We talk about it all the time. I'm a huge fan of it. And I most of the time encourage people to do it just because I find it to be very beneficial. I don't see it as anything different than going to the gym or, choosing to go to a more quality grocery store to shop or eating clean. I see it all as the same thing. It's something that when it's done right, it's beneficial. It's very helpful to your mental wellness. But I think that today, and you tell me if you're feeling this too, like people make it like a non-negotiable. People are like, if you're not in therapy or you never been in therapy, we can't date. Do you think that that's a new prerequisite that is over like overly expressed? Do you think that people should want people to like have gone to therapy or to be in therapy in order to date?
Yeah. I think it's overdone.
Okay.
Because I think we're getting away from what the goal of therapy is and not necessarily and more focusing on this method of getting there.
Hmm.
Like the goal of therapy is to be able to have the tools to work through your problems, to, undo past trauma, to work on yourself,
Hmm.
to be reflective and, all these different things, right?
Yeah.
And therapy is one way to get there,
Hmm.
right? But there's other ways that you can possibly get there too. It's kind of like, and I don't want to boost anybody's ego and make somebody feel that way because that could be a whole nother issue. But when you look at sports, there are people who grinded and worked hard and got to where they got because they put in a lot of effort and a lot of time. But then you have people like LeBron James who still works hard,
Hmm.
but are physical specimens. Like you were born to play a sport, right?
Hmm.
Even like singers like Jasmine Sullivan, like what else would you do with
Yeah.
that voice, right? You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you were born
You
to
weren't
sing.
classically trained. That was downloaded into you.
Yeah,
Yes,
that was
you came like
the
that.
good Lord
Yes.
programmed that wonderful voice in you. So there are some people who can process,
Hmm.
on their own or
Yeah.
process through reading books or
Hmm.
hearing things or even I think for me, like I've never been to like consistent therapy sessions. I've done like couples thing,
Hmm.
but my parents are like the amount of conversations, talk,
Hmm.
wisdom, like I've uncovered so much about myself and who I am as a
Hmm.
person through those conversations with them. So it's like
Hmm.
how you get there is how you get there.
Yes.
Like, and I understand the method of therapy because it's the first step in somebody saying like there are things that I have to work on.
Hmm.
So that somebody sees that as like, oh, if you're saying you're going to therapy, you're acknowledging like, hey, I'm accountable to myself and know that
Yeah.
there's things I have to get better at and things I have to work on. But
Hmm.
saying somebody has to do it without even experiencing them or knowing them or
Yeah.
understanding them, I don't think that's fair.
Yeah. I mostly agree with you. I mostly agree with you because you're a living and walking example of it, and there are plenty of people that just they didn't suffer through all of these heavy things growing up where they're having to undo traumas. They weren't abused. Like they just didn't go through things where like therapy starts as like this hospital. Like it's not necessary for some folks. I do though think that so many people actually do have that experience though. So many people did deal with stuff. So many people did have interesting family dynamics growing up or complicated relationships with classmates or friends or whatever, or they lost someone that was so significant to them at maybe a young age and they didn't understand how to process it and it caused them to be blah 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 blah. I think it's more people like that than people like yourself where you had this really great structure or you were exposed to certain things at a younger age. So it's like I never really like dealt with all of that. No one ever took my innocence. No one ever did all these things to me. So I don't really need that. Where now in your life, it is more so used as a maintenance tool when it's necessary. If you and Brie are having a thing, it's like we can't figure this out between the two of us. Let's go and have this maintenance tool. Let's get a third party involved that can say, okay. And a lot of times with therapy, and I've only done literally one couples session of therapy, but what it was able to do was really just how do I say this, make us behave better in the moment.
It's like a
In
mediator.
Yeah, it's like in the communication, because when there's no referee, there's no third party witnessing the communication. You usually do or say things that like you may not do in front of a doctor that's watching you talk to each other. You might sit there and be like, okay, I'm gonna let him finish. Like you're now being more demure, you're being more controlled, instead of, and sometimes it's helpful, right? Instead of popping off and being really extra when it's just the two of y'all in the house and the guardrails are not there. So I think sometimes that's why couples therapy is very helpful, because that person is a in between that helps you get your thoughts out, and we'll talk about those. You'll get your thoughts out, we'll talk about those. We'll allow exchange and back and forth. So is it a hard requisite for me that someone has to be in therapy or had to have had therapy? No. What is a hard prerequisite for me is that you must be open to it. You can't have a feeling of like, I'm not doing that. I don't believe in therapy. I couldn't date someone that just thinks it's a bad idea. And yes, I am going to spend time with you, like you said, to like talk to you about certain things. We're going to get into certain topics. And then by way of listening to that, my goal is really just like it is on this show, is to make people understand the benefits of therapy, not to hit them over the head with it or bully them into it.
Yeah.
How it was introduced to me was in a very thoughtful, I think this would be helpful to you based on what I know of the situation, based on what you shared with me, based on what you've exposed to me. I think you should maybe just consider it because it could be helpful to you. And because it was presented to me like that, instead of, you need to go to therapy. You need to talk to somebody. You may feel that way, but to say it that way, especially when therapy, while it's more accepted today, it still can be a bit of a stigma. It makes someone instantly feel like something's wrong with me.
And it costs money.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. That's for sure. It's not cheap. But nothing. We're talking about a particular group of folks, right? But nothing that is very or highly beneficial to you is usually free. Like, other than maybe your
Yeah.
relationship with God or going to church. But the gym is not free either. But you pay to go and do that. The eating cleaner or choosing better, you go into a better grocery store, it's not going to be the price of the one that has all of the little Debbie snacks. The price points are going to be different. You're getting a higher quality of thing because it's going to highly benefit you. So I'm not suggesting that I don't care about people's pockets, because I do. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. But we spend money on less.
Yeah, for sure.
We spend money on less. Y'all signing up for them. How much them Sunday ticket things? When NFL comes out, y'all paying $200 and $300 just to be able to watch all the games all at the same time on all of the networks. I mean, it's benefiting you because you like sports, but
Yeah.
it's not necessarily making you a better human.
I think I agree with you, and I'm just more interested in the steps you're taking to better yourself.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Like that, and I think that's what it comes down to. I think it comes down to two things. What steps are you taking to better yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And then leaning into what you said is the prerequisite or the requisite is basically like, are you open to it?
Yeah.
It comes down to the simple question is, are you willing to do what it takes to make this relationship work?
Yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's like, whether that's therapy, whether that's me asking you to do something else that I feel like will be beneficial for this relationship, then I just want to know that you would be open to giving it a real effort and giving it a real try. And if I'm telling you I need something and you don't seem to understand me, it's not even saying that you're wrong or I'm right. It's just that we need somebody else here to help us. And that's one thing I'll say is, after talking to a lot of married couples, both the men and the women, I started to have a different perspective on why marriages fail.
Okay.
You hear a lot that finances are the biggest issue and all these different things. And sometimes you think like, oh, they just chose the wrong person. But I'm like, after talking to married couples, I'm like, I don't think that that's it. I think that those are symptoms of the main issue,
Mm-hmm.
but I just don't think people know how to communicate with one another.
Yes.
That is really what it comes down to when I
Mm-hmm.
talk to a lot of these people. They have no idea how to communicate with each other. And the thing that makes it tough is that it's not, the breakdown normally comes where it's not about being right.
Yes. I was just about to add to that, but yes.
It's
Mm-hmm.
not about being right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what everybody feels. What I'm saying is right. Like how you approach it, the tone,
Mm-hmm.
the timing, the
Mm-hmm.
when, the what, the who, like all those things are important in how you're communicating your message. Because I remember I was talking to a friend recently and she was telling me about different stuff going on in their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, why do you feel you had to say that at that time?
Yeah.
And she was like, well, it just came to my mind. I feel like I should be able to say it. I'm waiting to do this. I'm waiting to do that. I'm waiting to do this. But I'm like, I don't think you understand like how that might come across.
Mm-hmm.
Or she told me something that the guy had said.
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't know how he could say that. But I was like, you want me to tell you what he meant?
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, I could tell you what he meant.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, go ahead, tell me what he meant. I said, even though he said that thing to you and it was hurtful,
Yeah.
what he really meant was that I work really hard. I'm really trying and I'm providing for our family. I'm okay with you feeling the way that you feel, but please just approach me as if we're on the same team.
Yeah.
Your tone, the way you're talking to me, your mannerisms are as if I'm the enemy or I am this horrible person.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come at me like that, then I'm just like, well, F you then, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't care if you feel the way you feel, but just communicate it to me like you love me
Yeah.
and like we're on the same team.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, when people explain to me their situations, I'm like, it's okay to talk about these things and it's fine to have these problems and it's nothing crazy. Marriages deal through this, but it's all in how you communicate the message with each other. And it's so lost. And I think that's one of the major ways that therapy can play a part in your relationship
Yes.
because you guys cannot hear each other. You don't understand what you're saying. Everything's getting lost in translation because of these emotions and feelings and the history, right? Like,
Yeah.
because on the surface, right,
Yep.
things look a certain way. But if you look at the history, right,
Ooh.
then it's
Deep.
like there's so many things that got us here to this point,
Mm-hmm.
and why your thing is justified. Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you do that for your wife? Oh, you didn't hear the history of how I did X, this, and it was never appreciated. So on the surface, you think I'm this, but when you bring, so it's like it's so much, and you need somebody, like you said, a referee or a mediator in there to be like,
Yes.
I need you to talk to each other this way. And I'll say this one thing and throw it back to you. But I saw this one thing on YouTube. I had to send it to you, and it was like a woman talking to her husband
Uh-huh.
about like they were in like a therapy session, and the way that the therapist handled it was so masterful in how she was directing them. She was still pushing the conversation forward, but correcting them in what they were saying. So I can't remember it verbatim, but I remember that the wife came at her husband a certain way.
Yeah.
And then she was like, let's say her name was Mary. She was like, Mary, she was like, do you think the way you said that was, productive and for your husband to hear that?
Yeah.
And she was like, no, you're right. And then he was like, see, this is what I'm talking about. And she was like, John, you see how I said that to her? Like,
Yes.
you know
I
what I
saw this
mean?
clip.
Yeah,
I
you
saw
saw it.
this
So
clip.
like,
Yes.
it
This is
ain't
from the
verbatim.
from couples therapy.
Yeah, but
I
it's
love
like,
that show so bad.
the
Ooh.
way that she navigated that was
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you thought because I agreed that she was this way in this moment
Yeah.
that your
You could do
response was
that.
justified. No,
Yes.
I didn't respond to her that way.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
disarmed it and said, and
Mm-hmm.
softly in
Mm-hmm.
love, how I felt about how she responded to you. And then you came back and was like, the fire getting lower, gasoline. Like,
Yes.
let me
And she
throw.
even finished it with him by saying, you can do that too. You can
Yeah,
do
you
what I just
you
did.
did.
You
Yeah,
can do what I just did, not what you just did. What you
exactly.
just did didn't help. What I just did, you see how you got a different response? Now, yes, it could have been because I was saying it, but 9 times out of 10, it's not. It's really the tone and the framing of how you're saying something. But yes, I've seen this clip and it was mad. She has so many clips like that. It's crazy. I'm like, you are like, wow. This is why I do love therapy in that way. It doesn't always feel good. Of course not. You know, my introduction to therapy was when I say my introduction, when I first started going, it was very difficult. It was one difficult, just the concept of like sitting there with a person that I don't know and telling them about very, very, very personal things about me.
Yeah.
And they asking questions and I'm like, oh, I'm actually supposed to tell you this stuff. You know, like I'm actually supposed to say this is how
This is how
I
we figure
learn
it
and I
out.
heal. I gotta tell you. Okay, no more secrets. You know, I remember one of my early sessions, she even said that, like, no more secrets. You know, because I was in a session prior, I would say it one way and then I would reveal something. And it's like, well, why didn't you say that in the prior session? So we then agreed to that so that we could keep moving forward. But this is why I believe that therapy is so helpful, certainly when you need it, certainly when you feel confused and misunderstood, or you say things and then people just don't really hear what you're saying. Sometimes you're lost in the fact that your tone is really messed up. You were able to just now tell your friend what her husband meant by what he said versus what he actually said without you even having gone to direct one-on-one therapy. You grew up in a household with coaches or therapists to some capacity. That one, you probably got to at points witness that type of interaction between the two of them. Maybe through conversations they explain that to you, so that's how you're able to then do what you just did, literally say what he truly should have said. He should have said it in the way that you said it, because had he said it to her like that, she probably would not have had a defensive response. She probably would not have had this like, well, he shouldn't just say it to me, like he was like almost like blowing her off, that his hard work is underappreciated, is what it sounded like in the situation. But how he expressed it was probably in a curt way, in a way that's biting, but he didn't have the words or the language at the time to say it in the way that you just said it. And that's the benefit and beauty of therapy or self-help, which is oftentimes people reading or consuming things that therapists write, that therapists record. So while it's not direct therapy, you're still getting the benefits of therapy, because you're learning like, okay, I can't say that to my wife that way.
Mhm.
Here is a better set of words, oftentimes more words than what you really could just say, that helps us get to a solution, that we're communicating with each other for resolution and not to just keep going back and forth. Arguing is tiring. Like being on the opposite end of your partner to an extreme, it's exhausting. Like it feels so much more peaceful and feels so much better when you can just like get along. Like that's a really great feeling. But if you're constantly going back and forth with each other, like, no, you're stupid. No, you need to stop talking to me. This shit, like when do we stop that?
And it's always rewarding when you're exhausted after a good day's work.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not even a good day's work.
It's not. It's
It's
trashy.
like it's not
It's
even the
crap.
result of it is like positive. It's like you exerted all that energy,
Yeah.
did more damage to your relationship because you probably said some things you shouldn't have said, right?
Yeah,
And some
exactly.
things you
Now
didn't
you have
even
to
mean.
apologize for that.
Yeah, so it's like I definitely see the benefit in bettering yourself
Yes.
and deciding to say like I want to be better. But it first starts with you wanting to find the truth.
Yes, for sure. You have to seek that. So you were just talking about history, right? And history is definitely the history that you have with your partner, but it's also the first H of our H framework for this particular topic. History is not just the history between you and your partner. It's also all that stuff that they came with. That they walked into this relationship with, that you may not even have any idea happened to them or they experience. Sometimes they don't even realize that that's where it came from. I remember one time I had a whole emotional breakdown, had no idea that something was brewing inside of me until I actually like talked it out, and I was like, "Oh, that's what that is." So history is a big part of like healing and therapy. if you're going the true direct therapy route, but like healing is absolutely deeply rooted in learned behaviors, the history of your family, the history of how you dealt with these types of things in previous relationships, the history of how you dealt with these things with your friends. You know what I mean? Like most of us are just a product of whatever the environments were, our neighborhoods, our schools, our households, our relationships with our, again, with our friends and family. And you have to consider those things when you're talking to your person, that they are not just arriving to this one little decision with you specifically. It's like, nah, that's at least 20 years old. That's at
Yeah.
least 6 years old.
And I think what you described is something that I will say is a difference between self-therapizing. Is
Mm-hmm.
that a word?
Mm-hmm.
Therapizing?
I think so.
Something like that. It
Yeah.
sounds right.
It's all right. I agree with you. I'm
Versus
riding with you.
going to going to see an actual therapist.
Mm-hmm.
That I think there's a difference between lifting weights
Mm-hmm.
to build up your arm and build up your bicep versus repairing a broken arm. Right? I
Mm-hmm.
don't need a trainer to build up my bicep. I can go to the gym, do research, read books, find the best exercises to,
Yeah.
do the right curls and things I need to do to build up my arm. But if my arm is broken, I need a specialist and an expert to get up in there to help me repair that. And I think
Yes.
when you're talking about history, that's really important, that you can identify something and say, I want to get better at that. And you can probably do that through books, through conversations with
Mm-hmm.
other people. But if you're trying to find the root of something
Yeah.
and why you think the way you think, you probably need some help dissecting that and figuring out how you got to that point.
Yeah, I agree with you. Moving into the next H, habits. We've all got them. We've all got good ones. We've all got bad ones. But this is another, to me, cornerstone of whether you need, like you said, whether you need to go get a specialist or whether you have built up some healthy habits that speak to your healed process, that speak to you being a bit more of a whole person. And I strongly believe that there's no such thing as a destination of healed. I think you're always evolving into some form of enlightenment and betterment of self. So most people do call that healing, but I don't think it's always healing. I think it's just always like you're trying to get to another level, and that is deeply rooted in stacking really good habits. Is it a practice of yours to pause before you respond to things that frustrate you, before you respond to things that anger you? That is how you are able to show up like more well-rounded, more like, okay, this person is, my partner is considerate. I can even see the wheels turning in their head, like, oh, he's doing his thing right now. He's doing that little thing that shows me he's a healed person. He pissed off. Whatever I said, maybe he didn't like it, or whatever someone else said, maybe it wasn't me. And he's going through his inventory of like, okay, those are healthy habits of someone that really is truly wanting to be better and or is better. It's like healthy habits. If you just constantly relish in making a mess of things, like you talked about, Bree's temper earlier, if she never ever, if she just consistently, this bad habit of like, I'm popping off, I'm pissed off, I'm popping off, it's a bad habit that you need to break. And maybe you don't know how to break it. So you need to go and seek that
Yeah.
healing.
That's one of the other most hardest things to deal with in a relationship, and that
Mm-hmm.
people struggle with and that tear apart relationships, is understanding that timeline of habitual actions and how long it takes to change those
Mm-hmm.
habitual actions.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've said it before on the show, when you communicate something or issue that you have with your partner, is typically because it habitually happens.
Mm-hmm.
But you feel that once you communicate it, even if they acknowledge in that moment, hey, you're right, I need to change, that then the change will happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, no, that's the beginning. The acknowledgement of this is a problem and I understand what you're saying and what you
Mm-hmm.
need of me is only the beginning of the journey.
Yeah.
They're going to do it again.
Yes.
And they're going to do it again.
Yeah.
And they're going to do it again. And they're going to do it again, because it's going to take time to change a habitual action. This isn't just a one-off thing. This is something that they have always done and that they do often. So it tears apart relationships because sometimes people don't understand first that concept, but also they don't understand the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, how long do I wait? How long do I, wait till I bring it up again? Like, when do I say something? It's like
Mm-hmm.
hard to know how to actually gauge if the person is making progress or not. But those habitual actions, it's like, it's tough.
It's huge. We talked about it in a different episode, consistency. When you can consistently show that you are making marked improvement to do something, it just goes a long way. It makes you feel like you did actually hear me. You didn't just take inventory of what I said. You're putting it into practice, which allows me to see a habitual change, which is a beautiful thing, and that's absolutely what you want. And it
And
go
I
ahead.
was gonna say too, I don't want anybody to fall into, and also I don't want anybody to fall into the trap, which is another part of this, is
Mhm.
that if you know your partner is going through trying to improve themselves, right?
Yeah.
And they say, I want to make a change, just because you don't think it's that big of a deal
Mhm.
doesn't mean you should not acknowledge the growth that they're making in that area,
Ooh,
because that
that's good.
happens so much, right?
Yeah.
They're improving on something that they have a problem with, not something that's your problem, something that they have a problem with, but you don't even acknowledge their growth because you feel like that's what they always should have been doing in the first place.
Mm,
That's not
guilty.
encouraging them, right, to do the
Yeah.
right thing, or saying that, hey, you see me and that you see that I'm growing. And honestly, I'm doing this for you because you encouraged me. You the one who told me that you needed this. And you're not even acknowledging my growth. You're even kind of looking at me like, yeah, it's okay.
The
You're not
Nancy Pelosi, like, you want a cookie?
like, great. You're not even doing it the best way either, or you're not even consistent with it anyway. But I guess, like, great job. Like, no, that's not going to help that person through that
Yeah.
progress. So it's like, when we're in relationships, the confirmation from your partner that you're
Mhm.
doing the right thing is the most that's why I'm here in the first place,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Like, you telling me like, thank you
Yes.
for doing this. Like,
Mhm.
I see the change.
Mhm.
Like, that is the encouragement to
Mhm.
keep going.
Yeah. That is the validation that's valid. Seeking that validation is very valid. I mean, you perfectly nailed and perfectly combined the last two H's, which is healing and help. This is why I think overall the topic of do you need to be healed to be in a relationship? No, because again, some of that healing must happen when you are with the right person. Some of that is a person encouraging you and showing you, you should maybe explore this particular avenue. And then as you get on that exploration, as you start to journey into that space, you are being encouraging to them. You're validating their progress, which is incredibly helpful for them to get to the more healed version of themselves. I think it is I love when I see couples talk about like how amazing this person was to them. Like, this person like blew my life up, like in the best way. Like, I didn't even think about these things. They completely expanded my mind, like expanded my horizons on what was possible for me. I know personally deeply how much better I feel about myself every time I tackle something that was very difficult for me at a different point in my life. I feel very accomplished, on my own, but it means the world to me when it's something that was hurting someone, maybe not even my current someone, but it was hurting someone previously. And now my new person or a friend of mine is like, you think you're like so different. Like, you're so much better. Like, you seem lighter, you seem more peaceful. Like, oh my gosh, if this was 5 years ago, you would have flipped all this stuff over. That makes me feel so good. I feel like I have put in really great work, and their compliment to the work that I've done is extremely helpful. It encourages me to keep going in my process because that means I'm getting better. I'm getting the result that I actually invested in. So it's working. I'm getting a return on my investment. So yeah, I think it's something that you should not necessarily long to heal your person, but I think you should long to be you should long to be a significant part of their healing process. You should long to be supportive of their healing process because you will likely have a person that is not only better for themselves, but that you can truly appreciate, and they can truly appreciate you for how you supported them in their process.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
You're not there to be your partner's therapist.
No.
It never works out, right?
No.
It's never effective
Yeah.
because there's too many biases and emotions involved. But like you said, being that support for their healing journey,
Mhm.
and you all being a support for one another,
Yes.
because a lot of what we're doing, there are things that need to happen as I've said before, that you do on your own, but there are things that are relationship specific that
Yeah.
like I'm entering this space because this was revealed in our relationship, and it's something that we're working on to help our relationship and help us be better for one another. So it is your responsibility to be there to walk with that person as they're going on that journey, because it's also things that you're going to have to do that's going to help them along, which is ultimately going to help you and ultimately help the relationship.
Yeah. My final thought, I just want, when we do decide to be in relationships with people, I want us to take them seriously, to really take account for all that it takes to be there for someone, having true capacity to be supportive to their dreams, to things that they're trying to work on, things they're trying to work out. Again, even if this is not about mental capacity, like mental health, but if they're really trying to get to a fitness goal, if they're really trying to lose 50 pounds, don't just sit on the sidelines and watch them do the work. Like, get involved. How can I support you? Can I get you on a juicing plan? Should I cook more? Or if I do cook the most, if I don't need to lose 50 pounds, but you're trying to lose 50 pounds, how would it be helpful to you if I just keep cooking what I want to cook and eating the way I want to eat, knowing that it's having a negative impact on you? I want us to be more serious about being with a person with the purpose to help them be the better versions of them so that they can be better to us and for us. If we're both always trying to be like, how can I be there for you? How can I support you? How can I encourage you? How can we have a better life together? I think, to your point, more relationships will work out because we're communicating about what we need to be better people. If you're a wonderful individual, you will probably be a wonderful individual in partnership.
Yep.
But if you are a bad person, you're probably going to be a crappy partner. It's just the way that it goes. You're going to be a crappy dad, or you're going to be a crappy whatever. They're going to be things that there is a through line through these things. So I really, really hope that we take seriously that, do you need to be fully healed? No, but you do need to be at a point where you can accept accountability for when you're making mistakes, that you are at least committed to growing past that and committed to doing as much as you can to be the best version of yourself for all of the people that get to experience you. That's what real, true, healthy relationships are all about. If we're not in each other's lives to make things better, well, why are we here?
There ain't a healthy relationship without two healthy people.
No, it's no point at all. So happy, healthy healing to you all. And committing to whatever works for you, but just make sure you're doing something that keeps you mentally healthy, for sure. We appreciate y'all, and we want you to follow us on social media. I'm at Ronnie Cakes
As Dre Smith.
and at Relationship Restore. We're on all the things, but we are absolutely on reviews. So we need you to leave us a 5-star one if you enjoyed this episode. If you just enjoyed the show in general, we would love to hear from you. We look forward to seeing you the next time.
See ya.